Welcome to Week 4 of the module Learning Through Two Languages, Fostering Additive Bilingualism, Cross-Linguistic Transfer. How do bilingual learners transfer knowledge from one language to another? Since we believe that all knowledge is held within a conceptual reservoir, what happens when a bilingual learner wants to use or express the knowledge within the reservoir in a different language? A fundamental understanding related to cross-language transfer is that every language can do what any language does. For example, in all languages people can talk about the past, present, and future, locate objects in space, describe things in terms of shape, color, size, purpose, express emotions. The list is endless. Because knowledge resides in the conceptual reservoir, anything that is in that reservoir can be expressed through any human language. It may take more or fewer words to talk about a particular concept, but it can be done. Cross-language transfer can happen because a bilingual is an integrated whole and is drawing upon the same reservoir of concepts and knowledge regardless of the language used. This is extremely important for young bilinguals to understand, because they are constantly surrounded by only English, and because English is the only language valued at school. Young bilinguals will often reject their primary languages as not being languages for learning. Their learning is enhanced when they use both languages regularly. Knowledge of one language's conventions may occasionally cause confusion or errors, such as when a French speaker says the house blue instead of the blue house when speaking English. Instead of hearing the house blue as a lack of comprehension, teachers can know that the expression is simply a part of the language development process. The bilingual learner has used knowledge of his first language to make an assumption about where to place an adjective in English. The most important thing teachers can do is to emphasize to bilingual learners that they can take what they know in one language and use it to strengthen the other, and that this is a gift. One way bilingual learners transfer knowledge between languages is through conceptual elements. What we know takes many forms, including basic facts, procedures, relationships among topics, the reasons things happen, about an infinite variety of topics. One way to build conceptual transfer is to allow students to create bilingual products around content subjects. This story in English and Urdu was created by 3 girls. In composing the story, the 3 girls discussed their ideas primarily in Urdu, but wrote the initial draft in English. By building on the students' varying levels of proficiency, Maria was able to participate in a grade 7 social studies unit, even though she had a minimal knowledge of English. There are both cognitive and affective benefits to intentionally building on cross-linguistic transfer. This is how one of the girls described her feelings about using her first language in the writing project. The more multilingual learners see their language skills as an asset, the more likely they will be to persist in the face of the challenge of second language learning. Conceptual transfer can be facilitated by the use of cognates, a common strategy that bilinguals use to make sense of what they are learning. Cognates are words that are similar in both languages and mean the same thing. Dentist and dentista is an example, as are telephone, park, and bus. There are also false cognates, words that sound similar but mean very different things. While embarazada in Spanish may look and sound like embarrassed, it actually means pregnant, which may certainly embarrass you if you used it incorrectly. Teachers can encourage students to look for cognates. Metacognitive and metalinguistic transfer strategies refer to the ways that we think about and organize information in order to remember and make use of it. These strategies include, but are not limited to, visualizing, using graphic organizers, mnemonic devices, and vocabulary acquisition strategies. As an example, a student who understands that a Venn diagram can be used to compare and contrast two things can carry this strategy over to making sense of information in another language. Think about metacognitive and metalinguistic strategies that you already use as tools to help your bilingual learners. Pragmatic aspects of language use may also transfer. Extroverts typically have an easier time in the initial stages of language learning because they're more likely to blurt something out in order to try to communicate. Gestures can aid communication, but gestures are culturally based. Another pragmatic aspect of language use has to do with register, how we change how we talk, depending on the level of formality and the relationship to the speaker. When languages share similarities, cross-language transfer includes specific linguistic elements such as the meaning of root words, like photo in photosynthesis, and features of grammar and punctuation. Different languages use prefixes and suffixes in ways that are similar to and different from English. For instance, all languages have ways of indicating quantity and more than one. In English, while there are exceptions, most nouns are pluralized by adding s or es. This may be similar to or different from how other languages indicate plurals. What easily transfers is the knowledge that each language has a way of showing more than one. What may be more difficult to transfer are the specific rules. Other areas of both positive and negative linguistic transfer are phonological awareness, the knowledge that words are composed of distinct sounds, and phonemic awareness, the ability to identify and manipulate the phonemes, or sounds, in the spoken word. These skills are heavily emphasized in early literacy instruction and strongly influenced by the particular sounds in the learner's languages. When students' first languages do not include some of the phonemes or sounds that are part of English, they will not be accustomed at first to hearing these sounds. They may have difficulty distinguishing between sounds, producing new sounds, or isolating or blending sounds. For instance, when a sound does not exist in a particular language, speakers will substitute the best approximation in their language for an unfamiliar phoneme in another. For example, sh is a sound in English but not Spanish. The closest sound to sh is ch. That is why shoes may sound like choose, or shoulder may sound like cholder. This process of sound substitution is the basis of what we often call foreign accents. That is, the transfer of the sound system of one language onto another. It is important to talk to students about the fact that the human mouth can produce and the human ear can perceive many different sounds, but that each language only uses some of them. It is helpful to explicitly teach students how to transfer what they know in their home language into English. Start with phonemes that exist in both languages. Move to explicit instructions in phonemes that do not exist in the native language. In Finnish, for example, the and sh do not exist. Pronunciation, quote, errors do not indicate a lack of understanding or knowledge. The older the student, the more challenging hearing and pronouncing new sounds can be. While practice on pronunciation is helpful, the main focus of instruction should always be on meaning and deepening understandings of the concepts of the curriculum. This practical example shows how you can combine conceptual and phonemic awareness transfer to maximize learning. Students and their families can be involved in creating similar supports regardless of the language. These supports are very effective in scaffolding students' ability to consciously take what they know in one language to make sense of another. Why is it important for you to understand transfer? Your bilingual students will benefit if you organize your instruction to help them take away what they know in one language to strengthen the other. This means using what they know in their primary language and using it to learn English, and taking what they learn in English to explore in more depth with their families in the home language. Every student in your classroom can enjoy the benefits and joys of multilingualism. In terms of cross-linguistic transfer, the important message is that all languages do what every language can do, and students can think about how to use what they already know and can do to make sense of and build skills in another language. Before you begin the Make It Work activities, reflect on this week's guiding question. How do bilingual learners transfer knowledge from one language to another? How can you apply the ideas discussed in this Explore to increase students' awareness of their bilingualism and their roles as agents in their own language and conceptual development?